Hi, thanks for joining me at the Everything and Anything and a Bit Gay podcast. I am super thrilled today to have a very, very old friend on who I actually lived with for a while living on South Beach. So, welcome to the show, Lise.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Lise and I experienced South Beach together, and Lise, I was thinking about this before our show, like how we got introduced to South Beach, and I think I told in my coming out story, my podcast, a couple of weeks ago, the way that we were introduced to South Beach is that I called you one night and said, "Meet me at this bar on Lincoln Road," which was Kremlin.
Yep.
And then you came in, and because I had a whole secret life that all of my friends who thought I was straight didn't know about.
Uh-huh.
And I think that you came into this bar, and I ended up knowing like 20 people as soon as we walked in. And you're like, "Oh, wow, this is fun." And it was a gay bar, clearly. And when we left, we were in my car, and I remember telling you, like, "Remember I told you that I have a girlfriend named Tammy? Well, Tammy's really Ronnie." I showed you a picture, and you just like, "Oh my God, this all makes so much sense now." Is that the first time we experienced South Beach together?
Yes, I think I had parked near the Museum of Science
Okay.
and then met you there, and then we drove together in your car to the beach. I mean, that's how I remember it. But yes, that night was so much fun. So
We had
much
so
fun.
much fun, and that
Yeah.
was kind of our introduction. Like, I was going to South Beach already because I had my friend Tony, who you became good friends with, obviously, and my friend Gary, and this whole other crowd of friends that I had. And you got introduced once I came out to you. I introduced you to them, and they like fell in love with you. So, and you were like one of the boys or girls or whatever, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So, living in South Beach in the early 90s to mid 90s was something completely different than what South Beach is today. So, today's South Beach, I think, is very touristy, it's very bougie. The South Beach that Lise and I were at was just coming out of all these places being retirement homes on Ocean Drive. Restaurants were okay. There was but what was interesting is that you had a lot of models and stars, and Madonna and people like that were discovering South Beach, and you would see them in clubs and bars.
Yep.
And that's I think that we were at South Beach before it was really what it is today. So now
Yeah.
it's like so over the top. And then you and I were living in south of Miami in Homestead, and we would drive to South Beach almost every night
Yep.
to go out because we were in our early 20s and that's what we did. And we would drive 50 minutes one way, drive home, probably when we shouldn't have been driving home. Um, and and going out, I literally felt like we went out 6 to 7 nights a week, every week.
We did. We even went out on Monday nights, and I would never go out on a Monday night now, but we did.
Yeah, and we'd go to a place called Mulberry Cafe where they had drag shows,
Yes.
and, that would be our Monday night thing to do, and so,
Yep.
yeah, we went out every single night, and eventually, Lisa and I, one day, kind of turned to each other, and we were just like, "Why don't we just get an apartment on the beach?
Yeah.
And that way we don't have to drive here anymore." And so, we made the decision very quickly. We found a place called Morton Towers,
Yeah, we were on
and
the 12th floor, a studio apartment.
a studio apartment. You had a papasan chair as your bed,
Yes, I
and I
did.
brought my twin bed from my parents' house,
Yep,
and we made it work.
we sure did.
And we had a lot of fun. We were the first kind of our group of friends of Tony and Gary and that had our own apartment because Gary and Tony were living with their mom and dads still. And so we would have everybody at our house for drinks and then for Halloween, everybody to get ready and for drag at our house. And everybody would come over for drinks beforehand. And our house was kind of the place that everybody would hang out at. So
We had a lot of fun.
it was a lot of fun. And we were definitely going out every single night whenever we
Every
were living
night.
in South Beach.
Every night.
And we had so much energy. Like we'd be riding bikes in the daytime and going to the beach and going shopping. And then like at nighttime, we would go out to 4 o'clock in the morning and then wake up and somehow go to work and go to school, and I have no idea how we did all that and survived.
I know. It's crazy.
But the interesting thing about South Beach is that we knew so many people. We knew the bartenders, we knew the doormen, we were getting in places, we were getting free drinks, and still spending a lot of money. Because I remember getting student loans. My parents paid for college fully, but I got student loans just to support my lifestyle to live in South Beach, which is really crazy now that I think about it.
I remember right when we moved to South Beach, I'd gotten a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and I had never had a
Yep,
credit card with a limit that high. And yeah, I spent $5,000 real fast.
real fast. Because we had different outfits. We had theme nights for our outfits too. Remember, it was like,
Yes,
oh,
we
tonight
did.
we're wearing all black, or tonight we're gonna wear, I don't know, latex pants or something. Like we would always, and I think we got our belly buttons pierced in South Beach together.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yep.
Um, I had 3 earrings in each ear. I had platinum blonde hair at one point. I don't know. I had black hair at one point. I had every color of hair you could imagine. And it was just, I don't know. I don't think I've been that carefree. And since we lived on South Beach, because it was so much fun and we just like, nothing could stop us. Like we were invincible, I think.
Yeah, we were. Was it 93 or 94 that we moved to the beach?
I think it was 93.
Okay, I think you're right. I think.
And yeah. And then we had a studio. And then we ended up like, I think you had a suede jacket or something. You're like, "Oh, there's mold on my jacket or something." And then we had a Madonna poster on the wall that was framed and we took it off, and there was, like, all this black mold behind. I'm like, "Oh, I think we need to get out of here." And so we ended up moving a little bit north. I think we were on 30th and
Yeah, it was pretty far. Not too far, but a little far.
yeah, 30th and Collins, and we had a one-bedroom, which was a really nice place, but
It was really nice.
yeah, it was probably too nice for us. I think we were paying way too much for it back then too. But I mean, if you think about like all the people that we met and stuff, it's so crazy just how much fun we had. One of the things that I remember that I wanted to bring up to you as I was thinking about preparing for this episode is that we went out the night before Thanksgiving
Yeah.
one that night. And
Yep.
I don't know if you remember this.
I
And
remember I remember we had a Thanksgiving dinner for all of our friends, and I still
yes,
have pictures of you in the kitchen. We
yes,
made all the food and everyone came over and ate, and it was so much fun, and then we went out.
but we went out and we ended up having this new drink called a flaming Dr. Pepper. I
Yes,
don't know
we
if you remember
did.
those.
I remember.
And we were so hung over the next day. You were supposed to go to your parents'.
Yep.
Where were they living? Pembroke Pines?
Yep.
And I was supposed to go to my parents' house, and "There's no way I am driving to my parents' house. I can't do it." And you ended up coming with me to my parents' house for Thanksgiving.
And sleeping in your parents' bed all day.
You stuck to my parents' bed all day because you were so hungover.
I was so sick. I was sick for days.
We drank more. I don't like today. I probably would die of alcohol poisoning because I just couldn't have a hangover for that long. Like hangovers last 2 days for me now, so that would have been like that was a 2-day hangover just at that age. So it would have been like an 8-day hangover for us now. Probably it was crazy.
I've never had a drink that was on fire since that night.
Me either.
I learned my lesson.
Exactly. I don't even quite know what was in it, but we had a lot of them.
Yes, we did.
And then we'd go another fun thing that we would do is like after we would go out, if we didn't go to after hours, we would end up going to this diner that was next door to this bar called Twist that we would go to. We would end up at Twist every night, no matter what. Like,
Every night.
and we knew all the bartenders in the back, and we knew, and what I regret is I wish that we knew we had social media back then because there's so many people that I know their first names and I have no idea what their last name is. And I would love to know where they are now and like what they're doing or if they're even alive.
Me too. Like so many amazing people we met, and we would only see, when we'd be out, and they were our friends. But
Yep.
I wish I would have had pictures with them and known their last names and kept in touch and all of those things.
Exactly. Because there's no cell phones back then. I mean, I guess there might have been cell phones,
I think that
but
they just came out. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't common.
it was not common. And there definitely were not cameras on phones back then. So there was
No,
just,
and definitely no texting, nothing like that.
yeah. So it's kind of like if you'd give your home phone number out to somebody if you wanted to hang out with them,
Uh-huh.
but that's how you kept in touch. If not, you would just run into them that next night or at some point during the week. So that's kind of what we would do. But we knew the drag queens also, which is really fun.
Yeah.
Going to the drag shows, there was Taffy Lynn and Mother Kibble and Cecilia
Kitty
and
Meow.
Kitty Meow. And I still follow Kitty Meow
Me
on
too.
Instagram, and she looks exactly the same. She has not aged a day.
And Elaine Lancaster. I'm
Yeah.
friends with her still.
Yep. So it's like and I love there's this whole Pioneers of South Beach room that is on or this group on Facebook, and there's always sometimes I'll go through the pictures that people post, and I've seen there was one time I found a picture of you and I at Amnesia or somewhere.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we weren't the main focus because there was like other people. We were like dancing in the background or something.
Oh my God.
Um, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, it's just so crazy." And just imagine if there would have been cell phones and videos the way there are today. Like, we would have been all over.
Yeah, we would have. Especially Halloween.
Oh my god. So, let's talk about Halloween.
Okay.
So, Halloween one year, we decided me and my friend Gary and Tony decided that we were going to dress up as drag queens this Halloween. And Lise is like, "Well, I can't be a drag queen, so I'm gonna come up with a costume myself." And
Something
she came
something over the top.
something way over the top, and you beat us all out with your costume. So she decided she was going to be a mermaid.
Yep.
She made the costume. It was fantastic, but the costume was just literally a bottom part that she could barely walk with, and it had a fin. It was like sequenced or something that you made.
Yep.
And then the top was just her long blonde wig that covered her boobs. And that was her costume.
I was a real mermaid.
You were a real mermaid. And I remember we went out and all the drag queens loved, loved, loved you. So they like, you got so much attention, even though you could barely walk. And I remember at one point, I don't know if you remember these two sisters that we met, Patty and Marina.
Uh-huh.
And we would see them all the time, and they knew everybody on South Beach. And they found me on Facebook like a year ago.
Oh, wow.
And so, I remember one of the sisters like, "Lise, I want to wear your wig and I'm going to give you my shirt." And so you guys went to the bathroom, you gave her your wig, you took her shirt, and she was like dancing on the dance floor, like showing her boobs to everybody as she was dancing because she didn't care. So
I do remember that.
and and it was just so crazy how we would just see so many people out. Like it was so just I don't know. It's so unique. I don't even know how to explain like what South Beach was back then, other than just a world. I mean, there was lots of drugs happening in South Beach. There was lots of people that were moving to South Beach from all over the world that were gay, or people that lived in smaller towns in Florida that were moving to South Beach because it was kind of like the mecca of being gay. And it was just all brand new to people. And it was used to be a place where it was like an old folks retirement community that was now becoming this kind of gay capital of the world in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember there was also a park that gay men would go to hook up after the bars would close. And me, you, and Tony would walk through there to go to our apartment, and we would laugh at people hooking
Flamingo
up.
Park.
Flamingo Park.
And I'd be holding your hands because I was so
Yes.
scared.
We were arm in arm, I remember a lot of times just kind
Yes.
of walking through. But one night we were like at our apartment. I don't know if we just didn't go out or something. And we were like bored. We're like, let's drive over to Flamingo Park. So we drove over there. You had a CRX, which was a 2-seater.
Yep.
But Tony and Gary were in the back seat, which was, I guess, kind of the trunk in a way.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm driving the car. We were not drinking because we stayed in that night. And there was we were sitting at the edge of the Flamingo Park. And I said, "You dare me to drive in there?" Do you remember this?
Yes, I do. I totally remember it.
And everybody's like, "I dare you to," because nobody thought I would. And I put it in first gear, and I drove right into Flamingo Park and drove around the field in circles. And there was a guy that we seen hooking up with a guy. His name was Earl. And Tony's yelling out the window, "Earl, your mama's calling you. You better go home."
And I think one of us said, "Come out with your hands up," or something.
Yes.
And we were just driving around in circles with the high beam shining in all the bushes.
We really should have went to jail. Like
No.
and the other thing is that there are so many times that we would go out and we just thought that we were better than everybody else because we thought we were so invincible that
Yep.
we really should have probably got our ass beat many times the way that we treated people
Oh
because
my
we would go in. I remember this one guy, I remember we were at Twist. I remember this story that I don't remember who we were with, but we were at Twist. It was me, you, and Tony for sure, and maybe Eddie. And this guy comes up and just cuts you off at the bar. And I remember you're like, "Oh." And I go, "What happened?" And you told me. I remember all four of us just went after this guy. And you're just sitting there and we're cussing this guy out. Like, "Who do you think you are? Don't touch our friend. Don't push her out of the way. She owns South Beach," and all this. And we
Oh
just
my.
we're letting people have it. And that, if one of us weren't getting kicked out because Gary being so drunk, we were fighting with somebody. So we were just, we thought we were the stars. We thought we were the shit. And we
We
kind of
sure
weren't.
did. And
But
when
I
we
guess
would sit, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
When we were sitting, I remember so many times up at the bar upstairs at Twist, and we were just letting guys walk by, and if we saw one we thought was cute, I'd put my leg up and be like, "Okay, you need to talk to us before I let you pass."
Pay the toll.
Yep, you need to pay the toll, mister.
Exactly.
And one time you had the hiccups, and I was like, "I need you to scare my friend so he'll stop having the hiccups."
I just don't even know. It was so much fun. And I remember one time we went to this night. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday nights. It was called Fat Black Pussycat. And I think it was at a different location. And there was a doorman named Gilbert who was he was a gay guy. And Fat Black Pussycat was more probably on the straight side, but it was South Beach, so gay people went. But I remember me and you, and I think Gary walked up, and there was a huge line. And we walked up, and Gilbert says, "Part the crowd. My girls are here." And he let us in. And I just felt so amazing because I'm like, we're gay. We got in. All these straight people, these hot straight boys are there, and they're just like, "Here we go. We're walking in," and are probably half shirts or our crop tops or whatever we were wearing.
And
you'd wear a bra out sometimes, and that's all you would wear, just a bra.
totally, yeah.
I mean, we just
And to cut a long line of people and just have the velvet rope opened for you was like, oh my gosh,
I know.
this is really cool.
And we just thought we were the shit, and I guess in some ways we were. And we just wanted to have fun, and we met so many people, and it was kind of crazy also, just because if you were, as a gay guy living in South Beach in the early 90s, HIV and AIDS was just so it was the center of everything in so many ways. So you had to be careful with that, but people were still so carefree and stuff. And it was such an interesting time. And I think it was probably one of my favorite times of my life, just being a part of that. And I wish sometimes I could go back just for one weekend and do it all over again and just
me too.
experience it and see those people that I just remember going to the gay beach on a Saturday afternoon, and there was we knew so many people there, and it was just so much fun, and it was just so chill. And I don't know. I loved it. It was such a fun time in our lives.
Everyone was always so positive and nice, and there was, no fighting or anything like that.
No politics back then.
Yes. Oh, that was one of the best parts. No politics.
There's no politics.
Nobody cared.
Nobody cared. There's also the other thing that I think is interesting is like there was no like homophobia back in South Beach then. There was no transphobia. There was none of that. You could be two guys walking down the street or two women walking down the street holding hands, and nobody cared in South Beach then. Not that they
No.
care now, but it's just it's so different now where people are so judgy and stuff. And like back then it was just so carefree and like nobody
Yeah.
cared.
It was a great time.
It was a great time. And I'm like I couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine first of all living with anybody else because I think anybody else would have drove me crazy. And somehow we lived in a studio apartment. Again, you were sleeping in a big Pier 1 import Papazon chair.
Uh-huh.
And I slept in a twin bed that came from my parents' house. And we had a futon that we never slept on. I think Tony or Gary or whoever was there would sleep on it if they spent the night over. But it was just every night it was a different. I remember there was a point where we're like, okay, who are we going out with tonight? Like we have to choose. We can't go out with everybody because we had such a huge amount of friends, like different groups.
I was trying to go through and like remember like where were we going on Monday nights and on Tuesday nights and on Wednesday nights. Like Wednesday nights I think was Warsaw.
Yes.
And every night it was a different place.
Every night. And it was different people. And oh God, like I said, if I really wish that we had social media. I have gone through that group on Facebook looking for certain people. There's a guy named Brian that we were friends with. I don't know if you remember him, but he was blonde hair. He was so cute and he was so nice. Oh, do you remember the guy that lived in the other tower of Morton Towers? His name was Alex and he was a really tall guy. I think he was from Argentina and I was like in love with him.
I remember one guy that smoked expensive British cigarettes.
That was him.
Okay. I do remember him.
And I remember going out with him one night to Twist for a happy hour. And I told him like, oh my God, I like you so much. And then he's like, oh, but I just want to be friends. And I remember doing like six shots of tequila in a row. And I came home and you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I'm so drunk. And I was throwing up all night. But the thing is like the next night he had me staying at his apartment, like sleeping in bed with him. I'm just like, we weren't hooking up, but he just, I don't know. It was a weird thing. So, but I would love to know where he is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And remember the waitress that lived across the hall from us? I think
Did she work at Glam Slam?
Yes.
I remember her. Yep.
And
you and I were goofing and I was screaming and she came into
my God, that's right. No, we're sitting in our living room floor and we're like yelling for no reason.
For no reason.
Like we're just yelling at the top of our lungs for no reason because we're just stupid. And we're laughing every time we do it. And you left the keys in the door and she walks in and she goes, is everything okay? And I quickly crawled to the bathroom.
And I was pretending to be asleep. Yes. And I wouldn't open my eyes. I was so embarrassed.
I know. And then she's like, what's going on here? And you just like, we're sleeping, like pretending you were sleeping. I've turned on the shower like I was taking a shower.
I was so mad at you for crawling to the bathroom. I was like, don't leave me alone.
And we seen her out the next day. I don't know, at a bar. So she's like, what was going on? I'm like, we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Oh my God. I just like, there was nothing better. Like every day was just fun. Like we had fun every single day living there. And I can't believe, I wish we had video and I wish we had pictures of that.
I do too.
Just more memories of it. And there's people that pop. I don't know if you remember Debbie. She had blonde, short hair. They were from Michigan.
I do remember the Michigan people. Yes.
So I'm friends with Debbie now on Facebook. She looks exactly the same, short blonde hair. Oh. And Andrew, I think was the name. And remember I had a boyfriend named Andy that was a Cuban guy.
Did he work at the DMV?
Yes.
Yes, I remember him.
Yes, there's some interesting stories that are not podcast friendly that we could talk about. But Andy was my boyfriend, I don't know, 6 months or so, and totally butch Cuban guy, which I was very into and stuff. But he ended up cheating on me one night with somebody, and I said, "That's it, I'm done with you." And then we ended up coming back. You and I came back, and he parked in our parking lot. And we kept kicking his car to turn his car alarm off because we wanted his battery to die. And I remember we did have beepers. That's how people got in touch with us, beepers, because he started sending me messages to my beeper, like, and saying like, what, and calling me like, you better not have messed with my car, because he had like some low rider gangster car or something.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, but we went back and we were trying to kill his battery because he cheated him. He was making out with some guy that night in the bar, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm done with you. So
He was good to have in our circle for a while, though, because we would lose our driver's license every weekend,
yes.
and he would help us skip the line to get a new one.
Exactly.
Which was pretty much every week or every other week.
It's either that, or we were like, oh, where's my whole wallet? Oh, I don't know. I guess it's gone with all my cash and credit cards that I had. And it just like nothing mattered. So it was just a carefree, wonderful life. And somehow with that, you were working at Costco. I was working at Home Depot.
Yep.
And we were still going to school, to college. And how we passed any classes or made it to class ever, I have no idea still.
I have no idea.
But that's what you do when you're in your 20s. You party and you can have drinks, and a hangover usually lasts a morning, and then you move on, and that's how we did it. So
I remember one of the things too that really sold me on the Morton Towers apartment was the toilet had a handle.
yes.
like a club toilet would have, and I was like, our toilet is just like the toilet in a club. I love this place.
Exactly. And it was such a piece of crap. And they tore it down. Do you know that it's gone?
I do know that. I saw that. Yep.
It's torn down. It's like some luxury apartment building now. That whole thing is like, that whole area is like all brand new stuff. But I remember whenever we left, and there was a pool. We had a pool there. I don't think we went to the pool that often, but
there was two pools, like a regular pool, and then the other one was like a heated saltwater pool.
Yes. And because I remember we would go down there sometimes, like after at the end of the night, and we'd go and like put our feet in the pool or whatever. And I think whoever was with us would go swimming and stuff. So, one more person I want to ask you. Do you remember there was a woman named Karen and Thomas? Karen had blonde hair and Thomas had blonde hair. They weren't brother and sister, but they were from Palm Beach. And
I do remember them. Yeah.
And they were always like a little too fancy.
Yes.
So but I always wondered like what happened to them. Like I would love to know where Karen is now or where Thomas is.
I would love that. Like I really wish I would have paid more attention to people's last names and their contact info.
Yeah. Yep, I know. I wish so too, but
it wasn't that important at the time.
I mean, nothing was important. I mean, like I said, I'm surprised that we even knew how to get home some nights to our own house. So and we did have a cat for a short time.
Yes, we did.
But we're not going to go through what happened to the cat. The cat meowed a lot and didn't work out. So the cat didn't live with us long, but
no.
His name was Bobby. And
that cat hated us, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I remember using the cat a few months later after he moved out.
Yeah.
You're like, I just seen Bobby in the parking lot. I would never do that today, just for some of my listeners to know. I have 2 cats that I love, and nothing like that would ever happen today. But
I've had a cat and a dog, and I take very good care of my pets.
Yeah, exactly. I have made up for what.
Definitely made up for it.
Yes. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed our little walk down memory lane. This is something that we've been talking about doing for a couple of months. And again, I would not have done this with anybody else. I love Lise to death. We had the best time. It's like, what you do when you're in college in your 20s is exactly what Lise and I did. And we had the best time doing it. So
yes, we did. Thank you so much for having me on an episode.
You're welcome. I think we'll think of a new episode for you to be on because you were a great guest. So thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks so much.